Hank.
Bill.
Hank on Buck. This is Hank on the No Sports pod. This is Hank on the spot. This is Hank on the Sports Sense. This is not Hank on the No Sports Sense podcast. This is my co-host Gavin.
This is Gavin.
And today we're going to talk about what is going on currently in the sports world.
As far as I'm concerned, the only thing going on in the sports world that's of any relevance to the general pop
is the Major League Baseball regular season. Let's go ahead and start talking about the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros are coming out swinging those bats real hard. How hard are they swinging them?
They're swinging them harder than...
That's right. They used to not swing the bats hard. Now the Houston Astros are swinging the bats real hard. In fact, so hard that they're third in the league in swinging. Is that correct?
That's right. I don't need similes, I don't need metaphors, and I don't need analogies to tell you how hard these guys are swinging at their bats.
They don't have just regular bats. They have wood bats. That makes the ball go even faster, does it not?
That makes it go faster, not to mention they can and will lube it up if they're given the proper documentation.
That's right. You see a batter in the batting cage getting ready to hit that bat. He's smacking that bat with a little bit of lube. What does the lube do to the ball?
The lube kind of loosens her up and gets her ready for the partial tissue that's going to be inserted into the baseball bat upon further swings.
It's because the bat boy himself is so used to being by himself and going through these masturbatory cycles that he would be perfect for the job of lubing the bat instead of the actual athlete himself.
While it is a cliche that the bat boy does live in solitude, it actually has been running counter to that in recent times. Is fairly gregarious and social among the fellow athletes, as goes as far as to say that he might even take a ramming in the ass on a Tuesday.
That is the update for the Houston Astros. Now to move on to the NBA, where the playoffs are actually taking place. This year, we're seeing a tight race featuring the Boston Celtics and the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the Chicago Bulls have a hard time getting the ball down the paint. What's the biggest obstacle they face?
Well, what your general commentator and analysis will tell you is that they don't have enough three-point shooting on the floor and the floor is congested. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I think that there is marital discord going on between Fred Hoiberg and Jimmy Butler.
Well, couldn't they just expand the floor itself so that they'd have more room for three-point shooters to play?
You could theoretically expand it. It's just a matter of investment, you know. Jerry Reisdorf doesn't want to invest in extra amounts of planks of wood because, quite frankly, they're on an economic downturn.
But I did hear that they were going to move the court to a larger size equatable to that of plank's length. Is that true?
That is true, and that is verified by rapgenius.com.
And how much difference do you think that's going to make in the three-point game by extending the court exactly the length of plank's length?
I think it's going to have wide-reaching implications. I think that Steph Curry's not going to be able to play the free balling style that he's innovated because, honestly, he's not going to have enough room on the court to maneuver. He's going to have to go back to a good old ground and pound style of basketball, reminiscent of the erstwhile era known as the 90s.
Right. That's right. That's why we go back to Isaiah Thomas, who was not playing last night due to an injury to his left inside groin. What do you think about Isaiah Thomas's return to the court?
Well, what I got to say here first is that there's this theory that Isaiah Thomas's dad named him after the great Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons because he lost a bet. But I want to actually tell you, my theory is that Isaiah Thomas from the Celtics is actually Isaiah Thomas from the Pistons' twin brother. And he was put in a hyperbolic chamber and frozen to conduct an experiment conducted by Adam Silver's nepotites.
And this is a theory that has been proven proven, actually, by most scientists in the biological fields. And what we do find is quite stunning is that
in the biblical fields,
that the ability that he has, not just through science, but from the Bible itself, is that Isaiah Thomas is able to part the seas and shoot those threes. So we really think that he is going to be a big impact in the next game. What kind of impact do you think he's going to have due to his height restraints?
Well, that's the thing. He's going to have a hard time penetrating the paint, but he won't have a hard time testifying to the tank. Now, the thing is that the Isaiah Thomas of the Pistons was an apostle, and the Isaiah Thomas of today is a Christian.
You hear that here, folks. He's a Christian, not an apostle. And that's why we are trying to strive to bring religion back into basketball. That's why we need to have popes on the court. We need to have bishops on the court. And that's why I think we need to get rid of all the regular old Gentiles that are clogging up the holes.
They're clogging up the lanes. They're clogging up the salary cap. And quite honestly, if I don't get some cap relief with a few Christians, there's going to be a explosion in the market for more Gentiles coming from the youth market.
Detroit itself has already dropped the name Pistons and gone in with Priest. Detroit Priest going to be making the playoffs next year. You can count on that one. White collars going to be stripping down. Black collars going to be going down, taking the ball down the court, slamming it down your throat.
That's right. Now, I digress. What do you have for predictions for the Spurs-Grizzlies series? Spurs currently up 3-2.
I think the Grizzlies are going to go ahead and win the next game by a minimum of 14 points, but then it's going to be going down to Game 7, and that's where it's going to get really interesting, because what's going to happen is they're going to actually emit 2 flying particles in the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, which is going to create a black hole, which is going to create a suction hole that's going to actually take the court and just going to go through the space-time continuum and make it a lot smaller as the time progresses, enlarging it but contracting it at the same time, and therefore the ball is going to go through many different states of existence, and where it will actually be in the basket and not be in the basket at the same time, thus rendering the Grizzlies the winner.
Well, that makes sense, because quite honestly, I was going to go ahead and put that out there, even though I'm putting myself at risk of being ridiculed and ridiculed on the Twitter universe, is that I think Kawhi Leonard is a fraud, a phony, and quite honestly, a farce. I don't think he's got the two-way talent. People keep saying he's a two-way talent. You show me how many two-way interstates he's ever been on.
I've never seen him on one-way interstate, let alone a two-way interstate, let alone the fact that I don't think he even has the balls to take a shit and piss at the same time.
They need the hay and the reins back over to that team, to Tony Parker. I mean, quite honestly, he has the championships, and he knows a few things about Mandalorians from Star Wars that he can infuse those into his skin. Give him a chance again. I mean, for God's sake, just because y'all don't mean he can't ball.
Doesn't mean just because his name is Parker that he's not a real bird like Charlie Parker.
That's exactly right, Bill.
Thank you for listening to the No Nonsense Podcast. We are glad to be your sponsor today for your sports updates. We are the No Sports Sense Podcast.
Well, I'm going to leave you with a poem, just a little extra gem for you today. You go playing on the NBA playoffs, you ain't going to come with your head off. Kawhi Leonard, you a farce, you a phony, you a bitch. Don't you dare come into my house snitching like Atticus Finch. There's nobody that's going to make the game winner except LeBron James, blocking every single ass coming out of my way out the lane. There's no true player better than Deadlift Shrimp, so come to my house if you want a pair of dickless shrimps.
Thank you for listening to No Nonsense Podcast, bringing you your sports news tomorrow.
With Gavin today.